Hello and welcome. Thank you for making time to join this webinar. I am Laurens Kok, Head of Foreign Investment at the Hague Business Agency. And together with me today is Nicole van Haelst, Director of the International Community Platform, where since 2008 already, all large employers within the Hague and region are united to address topics which relate to international employment. And also with me today is a leading expert in international recruitment, payrolling and relocation from Octago, Miroslava Semagina. Welcome everyone.
Thank you.
In the next half an hour, we'll talk about global trends in talent attraction and retention during this crisis period, as well as practical aspects of how to handle contracts and other legal aspects with regards to your international staff. I am sure you will have loads of questions, but for now, your microphones are muted. You can submit your questions through the chat box below. And we reserved about half an hour for Q&A sessions at the end of this webinar. The recording of today's webinar will be available and shared with you via a link by email, or can be found on our website, businessagency.thehague.com. You are of course very welcome to reach out to me, our guest speakers, or one of the business advisors of the Hague Business Agency after this webinar to ask more questions, or maybe if you have any support needed. We kindly ask you to give us your feedback about the quality of this webinar by answering the questions in the quick poll we will run during this webinar. So now I'd like to give the floor to Nicole, who is extremely knowledgeable about the talent attraction and retention currently taking place. Nicole, please share with us your insights. What's happening these days in the field of talent attraction?
Thank you, Laurens, for your kind words, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for asking my insights. A little bit about myself and my background, how I got into talent attraction management. Founded ICP in 2008. I'm an entrepreneur, and my passion is really in creating connections and the art of building a successful global talent hub. And what is this? Well, that's trying to contribute, building a place, a city, where people would like to come to work, live, relax, study, etc. And a bit about the context. In the war for talent, talent has won. What this means is that looking at companies like your company, I think it has become clear that during the past years, access to talent has become more and more important in deciding whether or not you move your business to one city or the other. And this access to talent becoming more important means also that whereas companies would establish or talent would follow companies first, now what you see is during the past 5 to 10 years is that companies actually follow talent. So wherever there is a talent hub, you see more and more companies flying in. And in response to this development, we also see that in public policies, in acquisition and investment policies, access to talent is climbing up in priority relative to access to capital, access to markets, and access to technology. There's another trend, and looking at the Dutch and the Hague market in particular, there is a qualitative and quantitative gap on the labor market. What you see is that Dutch people only can't provide sufficient and the right skills that are needed to go through those big transitions that we are facing. So we need internationals. And not only because we have a shortage in number, but also because it's proven that diverse teams perform better. And if you add internationals to your team, they will also be more able to open up international markets. So to create an enduring, strong local economy, we need internationals. Now, this is where ICP comes in. So our focus has always been, as an employer platform, is this one question: what drives international talent? Because if we know the answer to that, we will also be better able to attract them. And one thing is for sure, from all the research that we did into the drivers of internationals, it's clear that places attract internationals. So it's a combination not only of your super interesting vacancy, but maybe even more important is the life environment. So people go to work from 9 to 5, but there's also life from 5 to 9. And couples, 90% often being the dual career couples, they decide on location based on the quality of life and career. So what you see is that providing this attractive place has become a matter of all stakeholders involved. It's not the city that can provide this. It's not the employer by itself only that can provide this, but we need to work together. All stakeholders in the talent ecosystem need to work together to provide this attractive place. Yeah, and I think what's important, what's really interesting, and I think that's also why we are here, is that we, private initiatives, but also the city, like the Hague Business Agency, we are looking together what our roles could be in helping you, companies, to find the talent and retain the talent that you need. Now, and then I think the next step is with the COVID crisis coming in, talent attraction. Is it really so important then now? Can we still attract talent? Should we? Why not? And I think I can try to answer this question to you as a company representative or to you as a policy advisor. I think there are many reasons to say, well, don't invest in talent attraction now because well, funding needs to go to other things that do have priority, like the healthcare and all related crisis issues. And in a number of sectors, we do see that there are vacancy stops due to travel restrictions, amongst others. So yeah, those are all reasons why we would say, don't invest in talent attraction now. On the other hand, I clearly see 3 reasons why I do say, well, maybe this exactly is a time that we should even maybe ramp up our investments. And one is, well, that's the obvious one. In particular sectors, we need more talent. Think of healthcare, logistics, sales, life sciences, of course, security, cybersecurity. These are all sectors that need more talent than before. That's one. And I think what we also see, and that's more, I think, a common shared interest, is there is a decrease in the foreign direct investments available. And so the competition between countries, between cities, even increases to get the companies and retain the companies. And then access to talent, like I just said, is specifically an asset that can top you on the list to be an attractive location that people that companies would choose for. Now, and thirdly, and I think this is the most important one, I think to get us out of the crisis again, we need innovation. Innovation comes from people. And like I said, we don't have enough of the right kind in our region. So that's why I think we should at least prepare to fully go into campaigning to attract the right talent again as soon as the travel restrictions are lifted. And on the other hand, I think a remaining aspect of this crisis will be that more and more talent will work remotely. And even though they don't need to come to The Hague, we as companies in The Hague do need to display the offers we have in our region. So also that even if they wouldn't come here, it's a similar challenge to show what we have in the career opportunities. So I would say this is exactly a time to invest in talent attraction. Then, I think what should be the biggest priority at this moment, I think it's to take care of the internationals that are in our city. They don't have the social network that we locals have, so we should definitely make sure that they don't feel lonely. And we can do so by providing all the information that's out there to help people get around in these days. Also to the companies, I make sure, and I think the Hague Business Agency is doing that, to provide all the information in English on all the regulations and instruments that are there to help you as a company to get around. On the other hand, at the same time, I think let's invest in preparing to attract talent, the profiles that we need most. Let's start preparing for it. Do we know which profiles? Do we know where to target them on social media? And another thing is, this is the perfect time maybe to assess our brand. A lot of effort has been invested in creating this city brand, regional brand, but does it meet the challenge? If we ask an international in the Netherlands or abroad, is this brand attracting to you as a person? I think we've always been focusing on the brand towards a company, but it now also needs to be an attractive brand in the eyes of talent. So it's a time to assess it. And I think another point to assess is look at our talent journey. And not only what do we as Dutch think about the quality of our journey, but ask the internationals present. Where are the hurdles? Where can we do better to attract them, to provide a soft landing and to provide an agreeable environment to grow? So research, this is the perfect time to do it. And I think most of all, this is the perfect time to assess whether we meet the attributes for a successful talent hub, as the city of The Hague, I think, is. Do we have clear ownership? Are we using the technology that we can to attract talent? Is the quality of life and career, is it an 8 out of 10 on average? And assets that don't score well, let's invest in increasing their quality. So I think lots to be done. And then a fourth element is that I say this is also a period where collaborative talent attraction comes in. And collaborative in 3 meanings. One is it's a public and private effort together. So it's the government working together with you, with the companies, with the universities and the service providers together to create this attractive talent hub. Collaborative in the second meaning, in the sense that it's the services that we as a city can provide to you as employers will never be on one employer only. The services that we are providing are for multiple employers. And I think what we see more and more, that the proposition, the talent proposition that we are developing is a different one for the SMEs as it is for the large multinationals. In regards of talent attraction, I think multinationals, I think they are helped and they like the fact that they can use the place brand even more in their campaigns. And I think speaking to the SME companies, they like the fact that we as a government, public-private effort, help them to get a high number of good candidates. We don't invest in recruitment. What the city can do is help in the reaching out of talent, making ourselves heard, and do some pre-selection. But it's up to the individual companies, of course, to do the selection and to the hiring. Now, and then last but not least, collaborative also in the sense that we should, I think, work together not only between the cities in the Netherlands, but also cross-border, cross-sector. This is a time of changes on the labor market, and it will require that if we have too many talent available in one place, why not share them with another city in Europe? I think we as Europe need to be strong and develop our labor market in the competition against Asia and the Americas. Now, last but not least, we did a project to attract data scientists to The Hague. We managed in 4 months to attract 750 qualified data scientists. I can tell a little bit more about it later, but I think what struck us, the key learnings was that using social media to attract talent from abroad goes really well. It's not only that this works for practically educated people, but also for higher educated people. And I think what they really liked in our approach is the informal, instant ways of communication. We use the chatbot to reach out and to pick up the conversation. And what you see is people really like this. So informal, instant. And last but not least, it's super important if we have those talent interested for The Hague, whether they are still abroad or they are already here, we need to nurture them. We need to provide them with all the information and opportunities that are there to keep them here. I think that's my contribution now.
Thanks, Nicole. Very interesting to have those insights, especially on the collaborative effort we need to take, adapting the brand to not only companies itself, but as well as the employees involved. So we're open for questions for Nicole. Please submit them via the Q&A box below. We will answer them shortly. And for now, I want to head over to Miroslava. Yeah, she's been working on the Hague market already for many years. So Miroslava, what do you see happening now? What challenges are the companies facing when hiring and retaining international talent? And most important, what solutions are there to take? So we're looking forward to hear your recommendations. Miroslava, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Lawrence. I'm very happy to speak at this webinar because Octago professionals have been in the area of attracting and retention of international talent for already more than 30 years. And yes, today I would like to tell you about the challenges that we went through during the last 2 months since the lockdown measures kicked in, the solutions that helped us go through it and still are helping us. And of course, at the end, yeah, I'll share with you some current topics and trends we observe. Well, but let's go back to mid of March 2020. At this time, Octagon professionals had a little less than 100 international professionals at a final stage of the recruitment process. Most of them were abroad, but indeed some of them managed to come to the Netherlands, although they were put under quarantine right away and not being able to pick up their laptop, meet their managers or colleagues. The majority of them stayed in their home countries because the Dutch embassies abroad closed. They couldn't pick up their MVVs or the provisional residence permits. This is the document that they would need later when they arrive for their further application at IND. A few managed, but their flights were cancelled and the borders were closed. So in this situation, of course, the starting date of all of these candidates, new hires, had to be postponed. And at first we thought that the only thing we could do is just wait, but very soon we found out that waiting is not working in our favor, because this international talent can be taken over by local employers or employers based somewhere else. So, and also there was one, fortunately not very big group of candidates that gave leave notice at their current employer, but they didn't know when the starting date in their next job will be in the Netherlands. So they kind of were stuck in between jobs and no one knew for how long. So for this high-risk group, our clients developed special financial packages. We call them the assignment bonuses, to keep these people committed to the certain employer. But what we think saved it for the majority of these international talented people were the successful involvement in the life of the company and the team they would be joining. And Octagon, together with our clients, developed a set of measures to make this involvement possible. To start with the virtual onboardings, which are actual virtual tours that new hires receive. They can see their workplace, their office in almost 3D quality. They feel welcome like that, and they feel involved. There is an emotional attachment, and that's what we needed actually in this long distance relationship. Very important also was the regular meetings, virtual meetings, of course, with future colleagues for professional discussions. Of course, there were some security concerns on this, but as much as it was possible, and also for team building events. Very soon we understood that what works in real life communication as a team building, like the improvised hangouts on Friday afternoon with a glass of wine, doesn't produce the same results in virtual communication. Maybe you have heard of this newly coined term, Zoom fatigue. We felt it from all sides of the screens. So what actually worked better were more structured forms of communication, such as quizzes, games, discussions on certain topics. And you might be wondering whether we managed to retain all the talent that was attracted after so much effort. Well, the answer is no. We lost around 10% of the people with signed contracts. We had to replace them, of course. We spoke to all of them. They had all reasons we could understand as people. They either had elderly parents that they couldn't leave alone, or they had young children that had to be integrated in a foreign educational system at the time when the educational systems all over the world had never been challenged more. So currently, we keep on approaching, of course, candidates, and although the measures are being relaxed, the starting date for many of them is not clear yet. So instead of an employment contract, they signed a provisional document, something like a letter of intent, which is very comprehensive as content and like an employment contract, but actually doesn't have the starting date. And we hope that the relocation process is going to look soon the way we remember it from before the COVID crisis. But what HR and recruitment professionals are interested in at the moment is whether there'll be changes that will persist, that will stay with us in the world of international recruitment. We believe, yes, there will be such changes, and they are not only going to be in international recruitment, they will be in the way companies allocate their human resources, the way they communicate in the corporate world internally. So the first change that we already observe as recruiters are the added competencies to the standard job descriptions that we've been receiving for years. The first example would be the salespeople. The sales profile nowadays looks like a hybrid between sales and marketing, because sales professionals are expected to know about e-commerce, online, digital marketing. So obviously employers try to be prepared in case of an ordinary situation in the future. On the other side, operational and HR specialists need to prove that they have been successful setting up processes that are operational in remote work environment. And I believe general managers will be asked, you know, whether they can navigate change, because that's the reality we live in. Also, another topic that is discussed and mainly with global headquarters of local clients, this is the changes in the ratio of expats and local hires. You know, with a lot of our clients, the proportion was quite heavy in favor of the expats. And after the crisis started, many of these expats went back to their home countries, especially those with families. I believe they will come back, but if they come back, then companies are thinking, can we secure the safety of this dispatched staff in the future? So I will not be surprised if after the term of these expats finished, after it's usually 3-4 years max, they will be replaced by local hires. And maybe the most widely discussed possible change, not only in the world of HR, but in the business community, the most widely discussed topic is how to use the lessons learned from this forced digitalization of communication, and you know, take advantage of remote workforce. Here I would like also to support Nicole when she predicted it. Indeed, it is going to happen. Either it can be with employees that are in the same country but working from home, because with certain companies, looking back at the results, they were quite good, even though employees worked in a different way. So in companies from our network, this kind of remote work is prolonged for 8-9 more months, and then the results are going to be analyzed again, and yeah, maybe it will lead to a change of the business model of the company. But also companies are thinking that, all right, if physical relocation becomes that challenging nowadays, and if we already learned how to work remotely, why don't we just increase the number of our freelance workforce based abroad? And here comes the question how to secure a unity of the corporate culture, commitment from these people, productivity of communication when your team members are scattered all over the planet. There are a lot of practical courses on this. And Octagon Professionals also provides coaching services for remote leadership for businesses. We have high interest from the businesses towards these courses. So obviously, business would like to dig deeper into this subject. And yeah, to finish, last but not least, of course, the COVID crisis made a very big impact on the selection criteria of foreign talent when they consider a career step abroad. And we believe that the war for talent will be won by those governments that, of course, managed to keep the pandemic numbers under control, but Also managed to keep the state economy viable, which the Dutch government have been successful so far. And in terms of a corporate world, because indeed it's a collaborative effort, winners will be those corporations that manage to create an agile environment, a corporate culture that's adaptable to fast-changing reality. So that was all from me in a nutshell. I'm very curious to hear your hot topics, your questions, and I hope I'll be able to answer them. Thank you for the attention.